Mr. Chidambaram, thank you for taking time to speak with us. You've been quite active uh, over the past year or so about edtech. I was wondering about what your observations were that led to you taking up this initiative. What have you observed in the practices of edtech companies and how they're impacting consumers?
You see, when I decided to dwell into the tech space, particularly the gig economy, that led my interest into the edtech sector as well. And then once I started reading about it, I realized that there were large companies stepping into this place, large companies with a lot of venture capital stepping into the place, basically trying to fulfill the aspirational needs of the masses in India, because the public school system has a lot to desire. There is a lot of pent up demand, and Indians generally want to give a better future for their children. So there was a big need. But these companies, when they were stepping into that sector, I also found that their practices were not necessarily very above board. They were indulging in predatory marketing practices. There was not much of a vetting of their curriculum. They were not really delivering what they were promising to deliver. And consumers, particularly, did not have the option, did not really have any option of grievance redressal. Neither could they, cancel their subscription because they were all on some sort of auto debit mode. So there were many, many issues which were cropping up. While technology brings a lot of ease into people's lives, big tech also brings in a lot of problems into people's lives. And there is a skewed bargaining equation between the consumer and the company. So I thought this was a good public interest area for me to dwell in and to raise the subject. And that's why I raised the subject, as I've done it with the plight of the gig workers as well.
So what kind of issues did you see? Were there false promises being made? I mean, consumers have a choice, right? They can choose whether
Yes,
to sign up for a service or
this
not.
is fine when you say that consumers have a choice, but when but there is also there has to be regulation. You can't simply say that everything is unregulated, everything is out there, and you go make a decision for yourself. That seems to be the attitude of this government. But see, if I have to start a school today, I need to go through a myriad number of permissions, approvals, sanctions. I need to have a certain space which has to meet a certain criteria. I need to have teachers who need to have certain qualifications. The curriculum we offer in a particular school has to be affiliated to a board. There are so many things, so many hoops you have to jump through before you even get the approval. But if you're an edtech company, if you're online, somehow that you could even promise university level courses without going through any kind of process of vetting uh, the quality of your course, the content, or the people offering the course. Nothing. There is no checks and balances at all. So you're free to do what you want. So, and to say that consumers must make up their mind after seeing that, but that's not the way it is. Consumers do not have unlimited information to make choices which are best in their interest all the time, because that is why we need regulation. That is why we have government. And,
And
and I believe that the government is abdicating its responsibility.
are there false promises being made? I mean, are there any instances that you
Yeah,
saw?
definitely. There is enough media reports about false promises by tech companies to consumers, and there is enough evidence of even if you go through social media, you find that there have been numerous instances where false promises have been made. I mean, that's very, very clear. But I have never seen a single edtech company being penalized for the false promises they make. I mean, a lot of times they say your child will be mentored by an IIT graduate. They keep saying that. I mean, very often do they say, but do we really know whether the person who's mentoring, or if the mentoring actually happens, is from IIT? Is he a graduate? Who's verifying that? It's a claim, right? So, and it's if you look at the customer grievances which are aired in social media itself and by other investigative journalists, there seems to be a lot of customer complaints, and there has never been any systematic method of even dealing with these issues.
So one issue that you've highlighted in your letter is that parents are often unaware that they have signed up for loans. How exactly does this work? I mean,
See,
wouldn't they?
what you have realized is that they have a course fee, and then the parents do not have the fee because they all come from from a working class background, and they are really stretching the last rupee to provide for their children. When the course fees, they're not able to pay the course fee in one go. They are directed to a finance company, which is again has very close links with the edtech company, and they're given a loan, and then they're given auto debits from that. That's what's happening.
And the parents aren't aware that that they're signing up for a loan.
No, they might be aware, but when they want to discontinue, they're not able to discontinue. There's a lot of times when they want to stop it, they're not able to stop it. They're not able to discontinue the course. Say after one cycle or 1 month, they don't feel that this is helping the child very much. They want to discontinue. They're not able to discontinue.
Since you pointed out the fact that edtech companies actually mislead parents into enrolling their kids into these courses. I had a question about the recent ASCI guidelines, which kind of touched upon these aggressive selling practices, misleading ads, and how they sort of push parents into this entire financial crisis situation. So now, do you really think that these guidelines actually address the issue seriously and sort of
No,
build a
not at all.
pressure on edtech companies to act responsibly?
Not at all. I think all these quote unquote self-regulatory guidelines without any real penalty, without really any picking up, which are all just advisories, which are, in my opinion, lack teeth. There is no mechanism to pull them up. There is no mechanism to. I mean, I have not seen a single instance where an edtech company or any ad has been pulled down by this self-regulatory body. So I really don't think this is tough enough, or this serves the purpose at all.
So, in your opinion, what should the ASCI do?
See, I first think that there must be some overall mechanism. See, I am all for free enterprise. I believe in technology. I don't want to stifle entrepreneurship. Let's be very, very clear about that. I'm a free marketer. I understand all that. I don't want this to complicate this. But because they are stepping into a public space, because they are providing a public service, and education is a public service, there has to be regulation. It's not a purely a private play. So there has to be some sort of overarching regulation oversight, and we need to create that mechanism. If schools, colleges all have that oversight, EdTech must also have that oversight. There has to be an oversight mechanism. There has to be a certification body. There has to be registration. There has to be this process, but it need not be cumbersome. But I mean, we have to have it. We can't simply say because you're in the tech space, you can do whatever you want to do. You can do exactly what a school or a college is doing, but without the checks and balances. I mean, if you're running a simple course physically, you really need certification. You need to see who the tutors are, what is the curriculum you have. And here in EdTech, we have absolutely no oversight, none whatsoever. I mean, it could, for all we care, it could be a bunch of people sitting in some call center offering these courses. We don't even know what the qualification of these people are in the call center. So we need to create a mechanism. I agree. As technology keeps evolving, we don't have the institutions to keep up with the pace of change. But that's why we need to also, regulatory mechanisms also need to evolve, and we need to create structures and processes to deal with an evolving technological landscape. So right now there is nothing. Let's be very clear. Right now there is nothing. There is really nothing. If tomorrow you could start an edtech company and start offering courses, charge people money. I don't know, whatever you can teach them, whatever you can claim to teach them, whatever you want to teach them. And nobody would know whether they're really qualified to offer that course, whether there is any efficacy in your course, and whether the person offering the course has got any background. Nobody will know that, but you're free to do it. But you can't start a nursery school tomorrow like that, can you?
So, but then, sir, that's actually what's also bringing innovation in the edtech space, right? And then,
so, but innovation cannot be. You can't be buccaneering pirates. Why subject physical people who build brick and mortar institutions. Why do you subject them to go through all kinds of hoops? Just tell anybody, if you want to start a school, go start a school. Give your own exams, give your own certificate, do what you want to do. Why would you not? Why can't they be given the same privilege? What is so holy about technology? That technology, just because you're in the technology space, because we'll stifle your innovation, so we won't regulate you. But if you're actually going to go build something physically, no, you need to come under all kinds of regulations. How is that fair?
So in that sense, this should regulation be at a state level, at a central level?
No, I don't know. We could start off with the central level, and then it can evolve. I'm not saying that immediately the regulation will be perfect, but we need to start somewhere. We can't just let it be unregulated. We have to have some oversight mechanism. And I'm not very convinced about this self-regulatory bodies by the association itself. I mean, even if they are a self-regulatory body, what have they done so far? Can they actually say, hey, we've regulated ourselves, we have pulled down we have pulled up this company for offering this false content or something? Where is it? I mean, you mean to say everything has been perfect? Nothing is. They have never pulled up anybody. Everybody is following their rules and everything is kosher. How is that so? And how many consumer complaints have come? How much have you dealt with? Have you actually reached out to all the consumers who are having problems? Where is it? We are not seeing any data at all on that, except for saying that we have formed a body and that is self-regulating. Other than that, I've seen nothing at all after that.
So the other thing is that they're not necessarily offering any certificates that are, let's say, state.
They might not, but they might not offering any certificates. But
they're like coaching centers, and coaching centers also have a fair degree of freedom in the same.
But this is just because they have freedom doesn't mean they can't. They can be outside the regulation. Then I think there has to be some vetting. There has to be the kind of are there claims settled? I mean, everybody claims that they coach the last IAS topper. Everybody. I mean, there are, but I think, you look at today, if you look at any newspaper, the first page of every newspaper is always a coaching classes.
Correct.
Or a coaching classes ad, which claim that they tutored the top ranking IAS student. Whether they really tutored them or whether the student just was brought in as an endorser for their school, we don't know. So, and you are tapping into the aspirational needs of India, and there is a financial market, and so it is important. It is important that there is some oversight. Okay, regulation might be a bad word. Well, I know people in the entrepreneurship space don't like the word regulation. Leave regulation aside. Is there oversight? Is there oversight to start with? If there is oversight, who is there a neutral oversight? I think we must have oversight. There cannot be any sector which is without oversight, and that cannot be I need to innovate. I need to be an entrepreneur, so I need to be completely beyond oversight. It's not an argument I'm willing to buy.
So we've also seen the center and some state governments partnering with edtech companies like Byju's for digital education products. We've also, do you think the state in some ways is encouraging these companies?
Yes, I don't want to take up names of specific companies. I'm more concerned about this sector. I have no bone to pick with any specific company, but it is problematic when there are been so many issues with these companies that state governments sort of partner them and give them some sort of endorsement as if they are education part of the state. It is problematic, and I think those partnerships have to also be brought under scrutiny. How did these state governments pick these companies? What is the basis? What are they offering? So I think it can't just be let go just because just an announcement. I think there has to be oversight and scrutiny into all that as well.
So just going back to the point about loans, Byju's has now said that they'll be doing an affordability test with parents before selling them the courses. Do you think something like this, adopted widespread by the industry, might help address the issue of uninformed consent?
I don't know. I think it's again self-regulation. No, so I don't know about this particular program for this company. I have not come across it. So what does it mean? But I would prefer that there is an arm's length distance between the financing company and the edtech company. I think being one and the same is, in my opinion, is problematic. I would prefer that even if the course has to be taken on a financial thing, it's better that a commercial institution which has got the license to lend is doing it, as opposed to the tech company itself. And people must have the choice from to whom to go and take the loan if they need to pay for it, rather than being tied to one particular. I'm not very comfortable with this cross-selling where you are forced to take a financial product from a particular institution or company which is being chosen by the service provider. I'm not very convinced about that. I'm sure I think as we evolve, even if you're going to buy some products, forget about EdTech, I think it will be very complicated if the vendor is tying you to a particular financial company to take that particular take the financial loan. That is very, very problematic.
So I have a couple of questions, Mosa. The Education Ministry issued guidelines for citizens last year. The Consumer Affairs Ministry also took note of marketing strategies of EdTech companies. Have you seen any change in?
No, not at all. See, these advisories are meaningless. They are toothless advisories. And in fact, the advisory given by the Ministry of Education was basically putting the entire onus on the parents. The entire onus on the parents. They were basically saying, subscriber beware. That's what they said. They really did not put any onus. So what we need is a robust oversight mechanism which constantly monitors and vets these companies, calls them often, sees what they're offering. If not, you don't necessarily need to give approval for every course, but at least a random audit has to be done. Then there has to be a centralized consumer redressal forum which sorts it out. Otherwise, see, the bargaining power and the economic power between a consumer and a company is completely skewed. If you decide, okay, you go to consumer forum, go to court, it's all very, very difficult. I mean, somebody, and they won't have the energy to go find it out. So I think a complaint given there with the proper proof that you've actually paid and you're registered for something and it's not working. It's really the regulatory mechanism which must take care of the consumer and not tell them to leave them to their own wits to go and fight it out in other forums. They can't let them do that.
So you think there should be a law in Parliament addressing?
Yes, definitely. There must be a law. The government must definitely apply its head, and they must bring out a law. They must bring a regulatory mechanism, and they must regulate the sector. This sector cannot be unregulated. Very clearly, without oversight and without regulation, I do not believe the sector should be there. There must be regulation. There must be oversight. Agree, they are not giving a certificate, but they are taking money. They are offering courses. They are in the public sphere in a great level. So you can't say that they have to be completely unregulated. I don't agree with that proposition at all.
So one last thing before I hand over to Saraswati, there is also, I mean, if you look at it, what the internet has done is it's made education from across the globe available to consumers, certificates that you can get, for example, at Harvard. I just wanted to understand whether they should also be under some purview of regulation if they're providing.
If it's a registered university under another dominion, then there is a credibility to it. Correct? If tomorrow, if say IIM Ahmedabad decides to offer a course online, and it is done by IIM Ahmedabad, there is some credibility to it, correct? There is a professor there. So at least that university will not put its name on without having some sort of checks and balances. But none of these EdTech companies come from that background. They are just tech entrepreneurs offering courses. So I don't think you should equate one with the other, but I would give them a little bit more credibility than a pure EdTech company, because these are physical universities which actually have faculty, which have curriculum, which are going through registration process. If they are offering something online, I think that has far more credibility than these pure VC funded tech firms are offering courses online.
I totally get that. So my question was more about the scope of the regulation expanding to entities which are not registered in India, like perhaps universities or course offerings across the world that are currently accessible to Indian consumers.
If it's a paid course and if there is any redressal, I think they must subject themselves to oversight in India. If it's free, fair enough. If it is a paid course, if an Indian customer is a citizen within the dominion of India is paying for something, and they have a problem with what they're doing, I think they must have a grievance redressal here. They can't be asked to run around the world for a grievance redressal.
So you spoke about bringing in a regulatory framework or an oversight mechanism for EdTech companies. I wanted to understand now, since this demand has been gaining momentum like since 1 or 2 years, I wanted to understand why is there no enough attention on this thing of bringing in
See,
regulatory framework? What are the challenges that
there seems to be no will from this government. There seems to be no will. In fact, there is a lot of silence. They never really talk about this. I am actually surprised that this is a government which talks about innovation and talks about the average citizen in every other propaganda of theirs. Somehow or the other is abandoning the gig worker and is abandoning the person, the consumer in the tech industry. I have no idea why they are doing that. Their attitude towards this has been very callous, and I am surprised by it.
and in what ways is this actually impacting the access
It
to
is.
public education?
See, we have to strengthen our public schools, and education cannot be only for those who can afford. Education has to be it's a universal right, and quality education is a universal right. It is a duty of the state to ensure that everybody is gets the same footing, at least in primary in school education, is equal for everybody. And really, discrimination in this country starts right from the beginning of what kind of school you go to. That sort of sets the path in life for you. So that is where we are segregating people and channeling them in different paths. So it is the duty of this state. When I say the state, and I say the state as in the state and the central as a government, as an entity, as a public authority, it's really the duty of the public authorities to provide quality education.
So now, some of the edtech majors are also venturing into offline coaching. So what are the further challenges that we see again in the public education
I,
sphere?
I think all these people who are offering courses online, offline, there has to be oversight over it. We need to say that they have to be registered under some body. We have to vet what they are offering, who are their faculty. So there can't be two rules, one for offline and one for online. There has to be some sort of overarching mechanism which is in place. I'm not necessarily the repository of all ideas to come up with the correct and the most efficient oversight mechanism. But the fact is, there has to be an oversight mechanism. There has to be consumer redressal, and those systems have to be put in place.
So, thank you for taking out time to speak
Yes.
with us. Really appreciate what you're doing and for you to for sharing your views with us.